Hello, everyone. My name is Giovanna Chase. I am a volunteer with Independent, and we provide military spouses with expert wellness resources for mind, body, community, and purpose. I would love to welcome you also if you're watching the replay. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to comment them down below and we will get to them when we watch it, when we see them. We are here today with Emily McDermott, and for the Simplify and Streamline Your Decision, Your Systems, and Your Stuff. Awesome. So Emily, she helps overwhelmed moms of young children define what matters, eliminate what doesn't, and automate the rest. In her podcast, it's called Moms Overcoming Overwhelm. She is also an author of children's books. One is called The Little One, excuse me, and enjoys writing custom poetry. She dances and enjoys eating peanut butter out of the jar. Thank you so much for joining us today, Emily.
You're so welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Great. And how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm all ready to talk about all the S's, the stuff and the systems and the simplifying. I'm all about it.
Yes. So let's get down to it. I want to know, and I'm sure the rest of us want to know, you know, introduce yourself. How did you come to tell us a little bit more about how you started pursuing simplicity in your life?
Definitely. So again, thank you. And hi, everybody. So excited to be here. So I am a stay-at-home mom working on this entrepreneurial path with the podcast and poetry and so forth. And I am married. My husband is in the Air Force. He actually has 19 years in. So we're deciding what we're going to do. I don't know if he's going to retire or not, leaving it up to him. But we're actually permanently stationed outside of the Washington, D.C. area, which is kind of unusual. But we really are so blessed to be a military family and enjoy military community as well, including great resources like Independent. And I have two boys. They are 6 and 4, or as my youngest would say, 4.5. Very important, that half. And my path to simplifying really happened back in 2014. So my husband and I, we got married in 2008. And initially we did not want to have kids right away. We just wanted to enjoy being married. And then we actually suffered a miscarriage in 2013, which was, of course, very difficult. But we knew at that point, it's strange. We knew based upon having gone through that experience, we wanted to have a family because we were just, hoping so much that we would. And when we tried again to get pregnant, it wasn't happening. So we just kept trying and trying. Nothing was happening. We sought out fertility treatments and found out that we had something called unexplained infertility, which is pretty much there's nothing physically wrong with you. You just really can't have kids easily. So that was discouraging, but we decided to go forward with IVF. And at that time, I was working full time, saying yes to everything, all the commitments, all the volunteer opportunities. Felt very overwhelmed by my home, by my stuff, just like kind of everything around me. And I realized that if my biggest desire was to become a mom, that I needed to be able to make the physical and also emotional space to conceive and to welcome a baby. And it was at that time that I learned about simplifying and what some people call minimalism, which is similar in that it's really removing the excess and that which isn't serving you so you can focus on what matters most to you. And at that time for me, that was, I really want to be a mom. So how do we make this happen? Luckily, we were able to conceive my oldest via IVF. And then Sean, my youngest, is what we call the free baby, since we didn't have to go through fertility treatments for him. And again, I was so grateful having 2 under 2 and not expecting it. that I had simplified at that point so many areas of my life, and I had decluttered, and because I had postpartum anxiety, and it just was a very tough season. And I really started at that time and kind of moving forward, working with parents, but moms more specifically of kids that are very young in a similar season to me, to say, hey, you don't have to take it all on. You can simplify, you can live with less, you can enjoy some of the freedom and the peace that comes from, living in alignment with what you say is most important to you. And that's kind of where this passion started. And I've been writing and teaching and now podcasting about it ever since.
Wow, what a journey. That is, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That is amazing. You've endured so much, and to have these beautiful babies by your side and to understand that simplicity is just, we would love to, understand a little bit more about how you did that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, how do you simplify and streamline the process by which, stuff is just coming into the home? I know that's something that a lot of us struggle with.
Mhm.
So that we don't get overwhelmed and we can have that process of simplicity.
Yeah, I would say, and it's funny, I always say like simplicity is my sanity because it really, having that overwhelm and the anxiety and the stress, it really impacts our physical and emotional health in ways that we may not realize because our culture is such that it's very, it's like applauded when we're busy, when our kids are busy, when they're in all the activities and doing all of the things. And it isn't as culturally normative to not do as much, to have kind of quiet time, to not have your kids in 3 or 4 sports at a time. It's just that's not the norm in our culture. So it really is kind of a countercultural concept to live deliberately in a more simple way. And there's kind of two ways that I look at it as far as the stuff. And it's not all about the stuff, but the stuff impacts everything else. So there's the stuff coming in, and that can be a variety of things for parents of school age children. They are bringing in all of the stuff from school. You have, mail, you have packages, you have the random treasures and trinkets and various things that they bring in from who knows where. And so, and there's also kind of the purchases that are being made either by us, maybe they're impulse purchases, maybe we're just getting things because they're on sale. Maybe our spouse is, one that likes to buy a lot of stuff too. And there's just what I hear from the people I work with is just like the stuff keeps coming in. Like I can't handle how much is coming in. So a couple of the tips that I have are to remember that you are the CEO of your home. So you are the one that is in charge of what is coming through that front door in as much as you can. So when the kids are coming home from school, this is where the stuff meets the process. The stuff meets the system. What is happening when my 6-year-old comes in with his backpack, throws it on the floor, which is exactly what happens. What is my process for going through the papers, for deciding like what I'm going to take action on, what I can recycle? Oh, this little doodle that he did, am I recycling it right away? Am I keeping it forever because it's something that he did? This is stuff we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. The mail comes in, what do we do with it? Does it get thrown on the counter and then at the end of the day just shoved somewhere else? I hear that a lot. Like the piles just keep moving
Yeah.
around. So when the stuff is meeting the system, it's what is my process for handling this, and how do I make it as easy as possible for me and for the people that I live with? So going back to let's use like mail or packages as an example. This is always going to be done hopefully with communication and support from your spouse, but if that's not the case, take the reins and figure out what works best. We have like a physical inbox for myself and my husband in our kitchen. So when I bring the mail in, immediately anything that's junk mail, anything that can be immediately thrown away or recycled, I touch it once, that stuff is thrown away. Then if you see that there's bills, take it out of the envelope. Envelopes are recycled. Then the bills, if it goes for myself, is going in my inbox. If it's going for my husband, it goes in his inbox. It's his responsibility for what he does with that. And then setting a system in place for, okay, I know that every night before the kid or after the kids go to bed, I'm looking at my inbox and seeing, what I'm needing to take action on, and having that time set aside for that processing of what's coming in. Because a lot of times we just kind of, shove it somewhere and it gets lost or whatever. Same with kids' papers
Yeah.
comes in, they're maybe having their snack. So then it's like, or whatever the case is in your home, they're coming in, okay, they're eating their snack. While they eat their snack, I pull everything out, look at the folder. What can I, recycle right away? What can I put in my inbox? What can I temporarily put in there? Because if you throw away the artwork in front of them, they're going to get mad.
Yeah. And then you feel for them, right?
Yeah. So usually we have something called like art purgatory. I'm serious. This is what I call it. And it's like it's a hamper that we no longer use, but we use it. The kids don't know it. It's in our closet, and the art goes in the art purgatory for like maybe a couple weeks or a month when they forget about it, and then I get rid of it unless it's like the stuff you want to keep. So again, that's where the stuff is meeting the system or the process, where that you don't want to feel overwhelmed and have all of this clutter all over. Visual clutter impacts our health, our well-being, our focus, our concentration. So let's have a system around the stuff coming in. So I just talked a ton, but Ivana.
That is amazing, Emily. Amazing. Just because this system that you have just prepared for yourself in your home and what you teach others and kind of work with them with, the clutter and just the stuff that comes in. It's so overwhelming at times. And then you feel for your kids too. So we have that feeling of ourselves and we want to have a certain way and our spouse wants to have a certain way and then our kids, they just want to be accepted, right? They want to have this safe place. So for you to have this beautiful flow of stuff, in its proper space and that what's the word I'm looking for? It's a process.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I love this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our viewers will too. This is amazing.
I did want to, before we move on, I did
Yeah.
realize I forgot to mention, because I hear so much also about like the little junky things from the kids,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, like just all the little trinkets, and I say treasures in quotation marks. That is another big category of stuff that comes in that we don't really know what to do with. And so it just ends up kind of like cluttering like the kids' rooms and whatever. And so then it is, okay, how do we simplify, or how do we make it easy that we understand what happens with that kind of stuff, instead of it being like a question mark in our minds. And this is where the power of artificial boundaries or a container comes in. And just side note, when I say containers, I don't mean you go out to the container store and you buy a bunch of bins. I will never tell you to do that. But my kids, each in their room, they have a small shoe box, and then we call it their treasure box. And that's where they put all of those trinkets and things they've gotten at birthday parties and the dentist and school and vacation Bible school and camp and all of these places. And once that is full, they are helping to make the decisions as to what stays and what goes. So you're picking an arbitrary boundary, and then you stick to the boundary. That's the system, that you're sticking to the boundary. And then you are teaching your children that they need to stay within this boundary. And that works for adults too. So when we have clothes coming in, let's say that we are having a lot of impulse buys for, whatever, choose your retailer. And it's all showing up at the door and it's all coming in and you're
Right.
realizing like, okay, this is too much. Like this is just too much. Well, you have a set boundary, which is your closet or your drawers. And if they are overflowing, mostly with things that you don't wear, then it is okay, well, how do I simplify my decisions? Like it's all about simplifying your decisions because we make supposedly 35,000 a day. And it's like, how do I make the decision about what I'm wearing easier on a day-to-day basis? Well, it starts with simplifying the stuff. So taking everything out of whatever container you have designated, the drawer, the part of the closet, whatever that is, and you're putting back first the things that you love the most, the things that fit you now in this season of life, in this season of your parenthood, whatever that might be, your go-to things, the things you're like, this fits, this is my style, everything. Put those in first. And then you're making decisions based upon how much space you actually have where things are not crammed in there.
Yes.
um, and so then again, I'm not going to say get rid of your stuff. Like, yes, I advocate decluttering, but it's all based upon what matters to you. So those maybe clothes, the ones you're not willing to part with yet, putting those aside in a bin with a label marked for 30 to 60 days. Put the reminder in your phone
Ah,
system, right?
yes.
And then you're able to experiment with how does it feel to have the decision of what I wear every day be simpler? How does that feel? Does that free up my time and energy in the morning to pour into my spouse or my kids? Like, and it's an experiment with less decisions, which is less decision fatigue and less time spent on things that honestly don't matter. So that's again an example of the stuff meeting the system and then simplifying your decisions as a result. They're all kind of intertwined.
Yes, I love that you said that, especially the part where, what amount of time or what energy do you want to spend possibly with your spouse or your children? Because it's true. We think about our clothes or our things and we think so much about them. Like, I have so many memories with this one shirt, and I don't want to get rid of it because of that, or I want to keep it in my drawer. Where you're right, having it somewhere else might actually be beneficial,
Yeah.
and then going back to it later, and then I don't know, in like a future, to a time capsule kind of.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you always have the option, like, if you get that reminder on your phone after 60 days, most likely you're not even, and this goes for pretty much everything, you're not even gonna remember what's in there because you've been, and this is for, for kids' toys, this is for your own clothes, for your own stuff, whatever, your books.
Mm,
I just talked to, someone last night that I was coaching, and she said, "Books are like my thing, like, I don't wanna touch my books," but especially as we think in the context of the audience that we're talking to, not me because we're permanently stationed, but most other people, they're having to move every 2 to 3 years, and just thinking like, how important is all of this, that knowing you're going to have to move it, and could you put some aside and see how that feels and make less decisions about, what you're going to read, what you're going to wear, what the kids are going to do with their time. It's putting those artificial boundaries in place as an experiment and seeing that, wow, there are so many benefits to trying a simpler way and trying things with less, that I like this and I want to continue this, and then you're more willing to kind of let go of the excess.
yes, I love that. And I'm curious too, whoever's listening, or if you're watching the replay, how are you, feeling about all of this? What is resonating with you? And if you have questions, put them in the chat. We will get to them. It will, you know, um, converse with you over time.
Mhm.
Yeah, wonderful. So then, when it comes to the things that we already have, you kind of touched base on that already. But how can we simplify our home environment by experimenting with less stuff and less decision making?
Yeah. So again, I feel like clothing, I always come back to it just because clothing and meals and these things are like universal to us all. We're
Yeah.
all wearing clothing, we're all eating, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so it is like looking at, okay, what is something that I can, decide once and then I don't have to, at least for a certain amount of time. You're always able to change your mind. But let's say, for example, for clothing, okay, I'm going to experiment with just the things that I love, for a certain amount of time. So even if you don't do a formal like capsule wardrobe or you don't do something where there's, whatever the Pinterest worthy thing is that I know nothing about, it just would be okay, I'm experimenting with this because this is less decision making that I need to do. Because what I always come back to are the tangible and intangible resources that are important to us as people, as parents. And that would be, money, time, which are the tangible, like we can understand how much is being spent of money and time, but also our focus, our attention, and our energy, which is less tangible, but probably equally important. And we don't recognize that what we own takes up our time, it takes up our energy. I just did a podcast interview, not an interview, podcast episode yesterday about what clutter and all of its forms are stealing from us,
Mm,
because there's a lot of scientific evidence about how it raises, our stress levels, our anxiety. If you're in a cluttered kitchen, there's science showing that you're more likely to eat junk food,
yes.
and that it disturbs our sleep. Like there's all of these physical and emotional aspects of being in a cluttered environment that we don't think about. And when we're like, okay, I want to be able to simplify everything in my home so that I can focus on what truly matters, because that's what we're trying to get to,
Right.
right? So you can start really anywhere that you want, but my recommendation is always in the least emotional, least sentimental places so that you can get kind of those easy wins. And also, so like your car,
Mm,
your bathroom, like
yes.
places that are easy where you're trying to flex those decision making muscles. Like, how
Yes.
do I decide what's important to me, what I keep, what I let go? And I know it's not, like I keep saying, I know it's not all about the stuff, but if you are overwhelmed by the stuff, you cannot develop a system that works for you and your family if there's stuff everywhere. You just can't. So it's like, let's focus on what's the low hanging fruit. How can I make the decisions on the easier stuff using that power of like the artificial boundaries? Okay, I have this much space allotted for books. I have this much space allotted for holiday decor or whatever the case may be. And then
Yes.
being able to start with the things that you love and then saying, okay, I don't love these as much. Am I willing to make a decision now on them? Do I want to put it aside for a while? What can I do with that? So that then frees up your energy and your brain power to say, okay, well, what's a simpler way that I could go about managing, this particular system? So I feel like I hopefully I'm not rambling. Hopefully I'm making sense.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
yeah, maybe I'll break there and make sure I'm answering the question, and then I can
Oh,
I can talk
yes.
about it for hours, as you
I
can see.
know. This is such a wonderful topic to talk about because
Yeah.
overwhelm, and simplicity, it goes hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, right?
Yeah.
So for the tips and the environment that you did answer, absolutely, because the smallest area where you don't have so much emotional restraint,
Yeah.
um, it's so much easier, like you said, to just start there.
Yeah.
and build that muscle. And, we don't want to have that atrophy, right? of
Yeah,
not
exactly.
having that muscle. So we want to build it up and flex it, like you said.
Mhm.
So, what are some tips, some best simplifying for meals, chores, clothing, even like kids stuff, toys,
Yeah.
and
Well, for meals, again, some of the universal things. I think when we give ourselves the freedom that we don't have to have a million choices, and that actually the having more choice can actually cause that decision fatigue because you're having to make decisions between more choices. So let's say I want to make, this might be a silly example, just came to me. I love peanut butter, right?
yeah.
I want to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then I have like 15 types of jelly. And it's like, oh, what do I choose? Oh, do I feel like apricot today? I don't know. Maybe I feel like grape. And it takes longer. And then you're more tired by the
Mhm.
concept. And then you're like, oh, I don't want to choose. So I'm just not going to have it, and you just kind of move on. Um, that might be a silly example, but if we can figure out for ourselves and then also for our families what are what I've heard are, could be called like brainless crowd pleasers. I
Mm,
really like this concept where it's okay, these are the things that hopefully everyone likes. They're easy to, easy to fit into your schedule, especially with, activities and different things going on. Then when you are starting that meal plan, you're starting with the simplest things, but also having those brainless crowd pleasers in some sort of system. So for me, I use AnyList. I've also heard of like Cozy. There's a bunch of different ways to kind of save this more, digitally. But I can make like tag something as being a brainless crowd pleaser for a recipe, and then I can go and see, okay, these are all the things that I have deemed to be what my family loves. So then I can plug it into my meal plan from starting from that favorites list. So it's really being like, no, I don't have to make all the creative Pinterest meals. It's okay. Like, it's not that every other parent to the right and left of me in the neighborhood are making these gourmet, meals or whatever. Just focus on what makes your life the easiest, which is focus on the things your spouse loves, that your kids love, whatever the case may be, and give yourself permission to let it be simple. Sometimes that's the
yes.
hardest part because we feel like, well, we should, the shoulds.
Mhm.
We should be making things more interesting. We should be, and I know with your background as a wellness coach, you want things to be nourishing, obviously, but you don't have to make it complicated to be nourishing. And so, really deciding what matters to you for how you are feeding yourself and your family, and giving yourself permission for it to be simpler instead of feeling like a cultural tug from
Yes.
social media or your friends or your maybe your mom is like, oh, why are your kids having chicken nuggets every night? And
Yeah.
I'll be like, well, that's what they eat, and
Yes.
so it's like giving yourself permission to focus on what matters most to you and making it as simple as possible, and just
Mhm.
put the blinders on and drown out the noise, because there's
Uh,
always going to be more that you can do. There's always going to be more that you can do in any of these areas. That doesn't mean you have to. I always say I'm giving permission slips all day long. Like
oh,
Oprah. I'm like Oprah with the cars. Here's a
you get a
permission
permission.
slip for you. Here's a permission slip for you. You don't have to make it complicated.
Yes, I love that. It's almost as a visual blinder, or no, a visual container, like you were saying before.
Mhm.
Give yourself that permission, but put the blinders on, and this is your container.
Yeah,
It's okay,
totally.
whatever works with your family, whatever works with your kids, that food, that nourishment is still going to fuel the body. And so, so long as it works make it simple. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And so, and I mostly am working with overwhelmed people. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell an overwhelmed person like, oh, I want you to do a bunch of research on like Pinterest meals. No, I'm not going to
Right.
do that.
Yeah.
I'm all about like you are preserving your energy, you're preserving your time, you're preserving your mental capacity and bandwidth to do this. So yes, we have to get dressed. Yes, we have to eat, but we don't have to do all the complicated things in order for it to work, for us and our family. So that is my soapbox on meals.
Yes,
And
love
then
that.
what was one of the other
Chores.
areas? Chores. Yeah. So I'm not really like I'm a more of a declutterer than like a cleaner, I will say. But again, are there ways that you can batch, certain activities together within what comes to chores or cleaning, to simplify that? Where for me, like a couple different things. Number one, depends on what works for you as far as kind of plugging it into your life. But for me, I have littler kids where they're having like a shower or bath at
Yes.
night, right?
Mhm.
So let's have a spray bottle because I have two boys. I know we talked about this before. I have two boys, so my
I have
bathrooms are like
one.
never clean.
Yes.
So having like one spray bottle of the universal bathroom cleaner underneath the sink when they're taking their bath or shower, and then you're able to kind of like spray a little something down, or when they're getting on their pajamas or something. So making it easy for yourself to kind of like do it in the moment with whatever's going on. Sometimes I clean or tidy an area when my kids are playing in that area, so I'm with them. They can see that the house doesn't magically get cleaned by, elves, like,
Yeah.
overnight, age appropriately involving
Mm,
them and that
yes.
kind of thing. But really, again, you are streamlining and simplifying without justifying. Like if
Mhm.
I want to use one cleaning product, well, I know some people that do this, using one cleaning product for like everything, great, do that. If you are like, okay, I'm going to do whatever floor that I'm on where the kids are playing, that's what I'm going to focus on today, great. But just figuring out what's most important to you, being able to simplify around that, like create the system that works, and also delegating. I feel like delegating for chores is a hard thing, but really asking for help and recognizing maybe it's not that it has to be done by you. Maybe you just think that you do it best.
Right,
I
right.
think and again, I work primarily with moms, but really I feel like this goes for, parents no matter what, or for,
Yes.
adults.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, oh, well, I'm not going to bother asking so and so because, or my family, because I do it best.
Mhm.
Well, is there a way that we can, encourage the kids to get involved? Is there a way that we can ask for help? Like, hey, could you vacuum this today? We just got robot vacuums on 2 floors, so I'm exploring that, which has been awesome. I'm like, anything to take something off my plate,
Right.
I am good with it.
Yep.
But yeah, I think there are ways, again, focusing on what matters most, seeing, is there an easier way to do this within how my life is working already?
Mhm.
And then recruiting help would be kind of my 3 main things for chores.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I love that you're there with the children and that you're incorporating them as well. That is something that is so near and dear to so many of us because that's part of that energy suck, right?
Yeah.
That we're overthinking, well, how can I spend more time with them? How can
Mhm.
I? you
Yeah, yeah,
know?
exactly. And actually for like as far as decluttering goes, which is another big thing I hear is that, well, when am I supposed to find the time? When am I supposed to find the time to declutter? Well, while you are playing with your kids, like what I do is I say, "Hey guys, I noticed that you haven't really played with such and such for a while. Do you think that we should keep that, or do you think that maybe we could donate that to the preschool or the church or to someone that might enjoy it?" And since I've been asking these questions since for a long time, since they could talk, right? No, just kidding. They're more likely to be like, oh yeah, mommy, we don't really play with that, And so, and with holidays coming up, recognizing like,
Yes,
where is the stuff going to go? Hey
right.
guys, I know that you wanted that huge like Hot Wheels thing. Where is that going to go? Look here and tell me where you think that home should be
Love
for
that.
this toy. And so while you're playing, you can start to have some of those conversations, and then that helps you incorporate decluttering and chores and all these things we have to do that take time. We can incorporate them into the fabric of what's already happening in our
Mm,
lives.
yes. Tell us how you're feeling about this, all the information about simplifying your stuff, your meals, your chores. If you have any questions, write them in the comments. This is great stuff. Emily, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, I know that like we prepared these things together and now I can't remember what
You
it
know,
is. Was it toys? I don't know. Kids
yes,
stuff, toys?
this kid
Okay.
stuff is toys, clothes, the laundry.
Yes. 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 I think I'm going to start with the laundry actually.
Yes.
Okay, so again, we talk about the stuff meeting the system.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, I do daily laundry. I have a family of four. I do daily laundry for two reasons. Number one, I don't like feeling overwhelmed by laundry. I guess maybe three reasons. I don't want to do it on the weekends. I don't want to just do like huge amounts on the weekends because my values are that I want to spend time with the family on the weekends. And I want to make sure that the amount of stuff that we have isn't so overwhelming that I feel like I can't get on top of it and I can't put everything away. So for me, when I'm doing daily laundry, so that's essentially the pajamas and clothes that my kids wore. And then, it's like 1 day's worth of stuff for everyone in the family. And that fits on like one drying rack in my laundry room and a couple hanging things. So again, having that kind of physical boundary or container or whatever you want to say, I only want to deal with one large drying rack's worth of stuff
Nice.
because I don't want to have to do like four of them on the weekend.
Okay.
So we all have, my husband included, but his is more just because of his work and personality and so forth, limited wardrobes. Myself, for
Yes.
reasons that I've talked about, my kids, because I'm sort of in charge of their stuff. And I've already seen with my 6-year-old that he can get overwhelmed by a lot of choices for clothing. And then my 4-year-old just kind of does whatever we say when it comes to what he wears. So in that case, I've streamlined and kind of simplified the amount of choices that we all have for our clothing. And that means that when I do laundry on a daily basis, it's not overwhelming and we're always wearing our favorite stuff because our favorite
Yeah.
stuff is like available to us.
Yes.
So that is where you really have to ask yourself, okay, how frequently do I want to be doing laundry? Is it overwhelming me right now? Do I feel like I can't put stuff away, like even in the right room? Like I am not a big folder. I'm not a big, like everything has to be perfectly in the drawers. But are you finding it hard? And then the kids are like, I don't have any underwear. Like,
Yeah.
where's my socks?
Yeah.
If you're getting that, then it's like, okay, eliminate the excess stuff, put it aside. Again, won't ever tell you to get rid of stuff. Put it aside, experiment with less, see if you can do laundry every 1 to 2 days, how that feels for a while. Everyone that I know that does laundry on a daily basis says that they're never going back to
Yeah.
anything else. So, give it a try. And if you feel like, oh, wow, I can handle this, I can handle the amount of stuff that I'm having to wash and put away, in a day, then you can always go back and adjust your systems. You can always say, this isn't working for me. I want to try something
Yeah.
else. But err on the side of making the choices easier for yourself and your family and trying it with less and having that experimentation mindset. And
Yes.
you'll find that a lot of these things that we usually like dread, well, I dread, laundry being one of them. Like, even though I do it every day, I don't enjoy it. Like, I don't
Right.
like doing it. It's just
Yeah.
one of those things about life you have to do. So again, how can we make this as simple as possible so that my value, which is spending time with my family, that's what I'm focusing on, and then I develop the system around that.
Right. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And just to touch base on what some families, when they're PCSing, we kind of do that. We live off of one set of, maybe five clothes each person, if that. And
Mhm.
we're traveling across country. And I remember, for us, and I know a lot of other families do this. They live full time or part time in their campers,
Yeah.
and it's just so refreshing to just have that little minimal amount of stuff. And
Mhm.
it's just that's what we do for that amount of time, just to get from one, base to another, or one post to another. And it's just so refreshing.
Yeah.
It's like we could live like this forever. This is great. And then all of our stuff just comes in and it's overwhelmed.
Yeah, totally. That's why people like going on vacation,
Yes.
and I think that, that kinda segues really well into,
Mhm.
like, the kids stuff, discussion, because when you are living in that kind of transitional place, whether it be, a camper or temporary housing, whatever, and you have that limited space, and then most of your stuff is kind of in between, wherever, then it's like, okay, we have a limited number of toys, for example, that we can bring, or books that we can bring, and or recognizing that kids are very resourceful and creative, and they're able to just
Right.
kind of like figure things out and use their imagination. But really looking at, okay, what are sort of like the favorites, and for toys, focusing on like the open ended, as they say, toys that they don't do just one thing. It's not just like you
Mm,
press the button, it makes the noise and you're done, right?
right.
It's the building, it's the things that you get to be more creative with, it's the pretend
Mhm.
play, where you're able to have more imagination. So when it comes to the toys that my kids play with the most, that we try to have, 95% being that, it's all going to be like, and again, I have two boys that are very wanting to build things all the time.
Yes, yep.
So we have the train tracks and the Legos, and some of like my oldest, we have big cardboard boxes where he will just like draw traffic patterns
Oh,
and
that's
stuff all over the
fun.
cardboard, and roads and stuff, and then he's able to be creative in that way. He gets his little cars out, he gets his cones and his barrels and barricades, and then he kinda does traffic patterns.
Mhm.
So, it's always about, like, okay, how are they playing? What do they enjoy the most? How can we have open-ended toys that they can have, or, even experiences, and recognizing, maybe they, wanna take a class, like a gymnastics class or whatever, swim lessons, zoo memberships.
Mm,
And that's a great way when you are moving to a new location, that you can really become familiar with what's available in that new location, right? Like
yes.
where are the children's museums, if any? Where can we go? And then when you're coming towards the holidays, and being able to have wish lists, that you can send out to the family, including some of those experience gifts on there. So it just doesn't end up being stuffed toys, 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 toys all day long.
Right. Yes. Oh, everything that you are saying is just so wonderful. And the if we started from the very top, it's almost like, just, containers, right? Like, not
Hmm.
the containers that you buy, but just
Yes.
having that barrier, boundary, and
Hmm.
then going down to where is your energy? What feels good for you?
Yeah.
And then going all the way down to, um, what is the simplest that you can do in without that emotion, right?
Yeah.
Where can you start without that overwhelm? And
Hmm.
then continuing to just break it down and depict each and everything, dissect it,
Yeah.
and building that muscle. So I truly appreciate you, Emily. And is there anything else that you'd like to share about simplicity and, overcoming that overwhelm for all of us?
Yeah. if I can be a little, cheerleader a little bit for a moment, I just want to remind everyone that, we all have to live with stuff, a certain amount of stuff. And a lot of times, again, you get that overwhelm of the stuff. That's where it kind of begins, usually for most people, not everyone. And so a lot of times we struggle with letting go because when we own anything, it has more meaning to us. And the longer that we own it, the more meaning that it has. You have memories attached to it. You have memories from when your kids did whatever at whatever age. And so it's normal. Like that's totally normal to have those feelings or fear, like you don't want to give away. What if you need it someday? Guilt because somebody gifted it to you. There's so much kind of involved with that. But you, as a human, are worth more than the cost of any of the stuff in your home that you are surrounded by. Your health, your peace, your sanity, your time, your energy, all of these things, your desire, which is, I believe, within all of us to live fulfilling lives, to live in alignment with our values, all of that is there, for a reason. And you deserve that. Like you deserve to be able to experience that. And that's what we're all kind of looking for, right? Like, how do I have more time, energy, and attention on what matters most to me? And for what I have learned is that recognizing that the stuff is just stuff and the other stuff is always more important, it helps you be more willing to let go of what others think about how you decide you want to live your life and your families, that you don't want to have a million toys, that you don't want to um go to Target for like a recreational activity. You don't want to have your kids in activities every single day after school. You have the choice to kind of craft the home and the life that you want, but you need to have the courage to be able to say, I'm going to put the blinders on and I'm going to say no to the other stuff because I'm focusing on what matters me most to me and my family, and I don't need to apologize for that. Like I'm just going to move forward with confidence. And so if I can give anyone any sort of pep talk, it's like you focus on those values and the things that are most important, and the other stuff will fade away if you are, laser focused on that.
Oh, that is beautiful. Those are just amazing words, and I know that they hit home for so many of us, and they're so heartfelt. So thank you. I
Of
appreciate
course.
that on my behalf and on all of us. And thank you, Emily, for your time, for your sharing.
My
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, for your guidance, because
And
really that was amazing. All the information.
oh, my pleasure. And thank you. Thank you for being here. So I'm just not talking to myself. I appreciate
You're
that and
welcome.
all of your insights. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions or comments that come through, and thanks to Independent
Yeah.
for supporting military spouses like us, right? And others in the community, because we're all on this like wellness journey together,
Mm.
and we come at it with different expertise and backgrounds and stories and passions, and it's all kind of moving towards like being able to live in alignment with what's most important to us. That's kind of what we're all trying to do. So I appreciate being able to share like ideas and tips with the community.
Absolutely. And you're right. We're all that's the search.
Yeah.
That is what we're here for. Are there any questions in the comments? We can answer some here if we have any. If not, that's okay too. We can always come back to them and answer them after. Um, see, well, give it a few minutes. Well, a few seconds. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think we're good. So, again, Emily, thank you for your time today and all of
You're
your
welcome.
insight as well. And we are here, yeah, to answer questions later.
Mhm.
They come in. And if you're watching the replay, again, add those questions in there in the comments. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great
Bye,
one.
everyone.
Bye.